Hey everyone, Nick here with another Alien Covenant breakdown. So this one is a major spoiler because I believe this is actually a scene from the film that they showed off today during the live stream for Alien Day. And speaking of Alien Day, I want to mention everyone to have a very special Alien Day this year and celebrate it with all your friends and family and just general thoughts about, the Alien franchise as a whole. And also want to give a shout out to all those people that came out during the Alien Day live stream on the Fox YouTube channel that gave us a shout out, the Hyper Network. That was really cool to see all the really awesome fans there expressing their love for aliens. So without further ado, let's get into this breakdown. So first off, we hear David throughout this sequence talking about his journey with Elizabeth Shaw and what happened after the Prometheus expedition. He says that the crew was all lost, but he was able to escape with Elizabeth. And they took one of the Juggernaut ships and they set out to make their way to the engineer's homeworld to find out what went wrong and why did they create humanity and things like that. So that's what this establishing shot is, just showing us the Juggernaut sort of floating through space as they're plotting out their course to get there. Okay, so this shot right here shows us Elizabeth Shaw inside of the Juggernaut next to an engineer's suit, presumably mapping out their route to the engineer's homeworld after she's spoken to David about it, because right here we can see her again using some type of a device or instrument possibly provided by the engineers inside of the ship to actually map out a star course throughout the galaxy to make their way to paradise. Alright, so this next shot looks like Elizabeth Shaw drinking some sort of engineer's drink and looking out of the hull of the Juggernaut ship off into space, because you can tell that she's very lonely. In these images here also throughout, her hair is a lot longer and much more unkempt, so you can tell that she's probably been here for months now, or possibly even a year, because we know the gap between Prometheus and Alien Covenant is actually 10 years, so these two had to spend a lot of time together and get familiar with each other. Okay, so next up is a pretty big thing, because this shows us right here 100% confirmed that Elizabeth Shaw does help David reattach his head. We can see this wide shot, looks like some compartment of the Juggernauts. She's working on his head on the engineer operating table. Next up, we can see this close-up right here of her actually reattaching the wires. He tells her green to green. It's very simple. He also expresses his gratitude to her. He says that she's a very kind human being with this very sinister smile. You can tell that he's got some other ulterior motives about him. Alright, so the next few shots here we can see is inside of the actual pilot's chamber and the giant orrery with the giant star mapping system, which we saw in Prometheus, which I thought was visually stunning, and I can't wait to see it again, IMAX 3D in Alien Covenant. That'll be great. And right here we can see Elizabeth at the controls of the Juggernaut ship, and it looks like David is actually inside of the pilot's chair. In the next few shots we'll see that closer. Okay, so this one's again just Elizabeth smiling in the navigator's seat for the Juggernaut ship as she's talking to David, asking him how long, and he says it's unknown, and we can't tell yet. Right here we can see them, again plotting the course with David inside the actual pilot's chair that we saw the engineer in at the end of Prometheus, and of course the famous space jockey. Alright, so right here, these next few images, it looks like David is putting Shaw into one of the engineer's sleep chambers so that she can survive for much longer, throughout the space travel, because it can take years to get to paradise from where they're at. It's impossible to tell, and it looks like David's drawn up a little thing of Shaw, so that's kind of nice to see, David creating things, his own artwork and stuff. Right here we can see a shot of David telling Shaw that this is the only way that she'll be able to survive the journey, being in this hypersleep chamber, and that he'll wake her up when they get there. And in these shots we can see Shaw again lying down in the engineer's hypersleep chamber as she prepares for the lengthy journey to paradise. Okay, so this shot right here shows us David talking about how he's alone once again now that he's put Shaw to sleep, and that he's just walking through the corridors of the ship, learning more about the engineer's race and plotting his plan for once they arrive on Paradise. This shot right here, the Juggernaut's coming out of a sort of a hyperspace travel system, I guess you can see, because it kind of almost reminded me of like Star Wars or something, like, the Millennium Falcon coming out of hyperspace. It looks a lot like that, so I like that touch to it. Also, the Juggernaut arriving in looks to be almost the same kind of location that the Covenant ship arrives in years later, we can see in the other trailers. Alright, so the last few shots here at the end of this footage shows us David and the Juggernaut arriving on Paradise paradise and moving towards the center of the engineer's homeworld here, because we can see the city down below. You can see the giant sort of mother juggernaut docking station that's hovering above the center of the giant Colosseum-like thing. That's pretty cool. Next shot here, again, we can see the confirmation that the smaller juggernaut docks with the large mother juggernauts, actually a docking platform, so that he's right above the area where all of the engineers litter below. You can see them, they all look like tiny ants down below them, so awesome stuff. This sequence is probably going to be one of the most amazing visually and just in terms of the story. Actually seeing David doing this to the engineers, crazy stuff. So right here again, it looks like the bottom of the juggernaut actually opens up like this giant circle. I guess this is something that we actually didn't see in Prometheus, which is when they actually unleash the payload of the black goo ampules, which you can see at the top right there. They're all kind of sticking downwards. The other stuff that we saw, there was a recent TV spot actually that showed the capsules being unleashed on the engineers, and it looks like they come down in like this spiral fashion, and they get released like in an airborne way, almost similar to the neomorph spores a little bit, but not quite exactly like that. But it is like an airborne sort of black goo, so maybe that's just a different form that the black goo can take on that, again, we didn't actually see in Prometheus, because in Prometheus they just sort of touched the ampules and they were activated by the humans being in the room, similar to like an egg, I guess, from the original Alien film. But here it looks like just a different way of actually dropping it or something, unleashing it. It's like almost like a bomb or something, like, that has different modes to it that you can activate. So really interesting stuff. Again, this shot right here is an underneath, I guess, the engineer's perspective, sort of looking up at the juggernaut as it's about to unleash this hell down upon them. And the best thing about this scene right here, this image shows us David looking down, is that the whole sequence right here, David is speaking the famous lines from the poem about Ozymandias saying, "Look at my creations, ye mighty in despair." It's awesome stuff here. Really, really cool. I can't wait to see this sequence on film. I mean, it's just going to be amazing. David's character arc going from where we saw him at the beginning of Prometheus to this scene is just a very sharp jump, in terms of characters. So, I mean, I'm loving everything that we're seeing out of this film. Definitely this sequence is going to be very special, I think. It's just the thing that I'm wondering now is, was Shaw actually involved in this, or did she know about this, or did he do this behind her back and he just actually didn't wake her up? Because that's definitely a possibility that he made this his own plan after researching for years and years of the engineers, and then he just sort of was like, hey, surprise, I killed everybody and I'm gonna kill you now too, because that's the running theory, that David actually turned Shaw into one of his crazy experiments later on, because from the various interviews and set reports, we know that David has been experimenting on the engineer's homeworld for quite some time, using the black goo to create a means of his own life forms. He's actually created the eggs that we see in the film that give birth to the proto-xenomorphs, or just the regular xenomorphs that we see, that look like distant relatives of the ones that we saw in the previous film. So I'm just wondering exactly what's going to happen after this scene, because obviously the engineers get massacred, that on this planet at least. We don't know if there's other planets with engineers, but it definitely looks like life on this world is going to be heavily changed by the introduction of the black goo actually being unleashed onto the surface of the planet in such a big quantity like this. An entire payload from a juggernaut ship of this black goo substance, the accelerant virus. It's gonna pretty much destroy everything, which we see later on. The petrified corpses of the engineers, very similar to Pompeii. A lot of the imagery is very similar, just in general actually, because when you look at the architecture of this engineer city, it very much reminds me of kind of ancient Rome or something like that, along those lines. I can't wait to see this movie. I mean, it's just wow, the movie's out in basically 2 or 3 weeks now, and we're just getting to that point where it's I don't want to know too much about the movie, but at the same time, it's everything we get out of the movie in terms of marketing stuff like this and trailers, it just gets me so much more amped that I just have to watch. I can't wait. I know a lot of people are complaining on my previous videos oh, why'd you post this, it's spoilers, and it's I'm sorry, but I just can't wait. The movie is so anticipated for me, waiting basically 5 years since the release of Prometheus to get the follow-up, and I'm really glad that they're introducing this sort of prologue sequence to bridge the gap between Prometheus and Covenant, so we actually find out what happened to Shaw and David in those 10 years. So leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. What you guys think of the sequence? You have to watch watch the replay of the Alien Day live stream. It's towards the end of the stream, possibly like the last 10 minutes or so, so just skip ahead, you can find the sequence there. But thank you guys again for watching. If you're new to the channel and you like this video, subscribe for more content like this. We cover all the latest Alien and Predator news here at the Hyper Network, along with character explanations and theories and other trailer breakdowns. And we also have a podcast called Aliens vs. Predator Underworld, which comes out every other week, and we bring together other Alien YouTubers from the community to talk about long-form discussion topics. Thank you guys again for watching. My name is Nick, and I'll catch you guys next time.